Hello. I made a video about my top 10 favorite CDs last week, and I wanted to keep going along those lines this week, so I got the idea to show you some of my favorite books. I'm really excited to do this. I'm probably not going to go too in depth about what the books are about because I'm really not good at describing things like that. So hopefully this will help me get better. But starting off, we'll start with Coraline. It's such a good movie, obviously. And I'm such a fan of like the animation and like everything to do with that movie. I watch it so much. Honestly, just holding this book makes me want to watch the movie again. But Caroline's such a classic. The book is definitely different from the movie. It also feels very different reading it. I definitely need a new copy of this because this has been beaten up. I've read this at least 4 times, and this was my sister's before it was mine. But I read this when I was in primary school, and I fell in love with the movie even more because of it. Some of the scenes in this are a little scarier than in the movie, which I find funny because this is a kid's book. But yeah, I love this. This will always be my favorite. I definitely want to get another copy. I'd really love to be able to find a hardcover copy of Coraline. That would be really cool. I also really want the vinyl of the soundtrack for Coraline. That's definitely like on my top wish list for my vinyl collection because I don't have a lot. But yeah, I love Coraline. So next, that's like probably my oldest book in my collection. Well, for like that I've had for the longest. But the physically oldest would have to be this copy of To Kill a Mockingbird. This is from my granddad's old collection. My nana was clearing out the library, well, their like library of books, and she gave this to me. I used to have a paper copy, and I gave that to my sister who wanted to read it. But like, look how beautiful this book is. That's insane. This is all like, yeah, Reader's Digest. Like, I have a bunch of Reader's Digest hardcover copies of books that I still haven't read just because I don't love reading fiction that much. Like, there's one other fiction book in my collection of favorite books. But yeah, I'm not a big fiction fan. This is a classic though. I think everyone should have to read this in school. I think it's pretty typical to read this in school, but I know not everyone does. I read it in school and I really loved it. So yeah, and I'm so happy to have this copy. I think it's, again, really beautiful. Moving on, this one I love. This is when I was getting into reading, and this really got me into it. This is a copy of Jane Eyre. I really love this. Although you can see it's a little stained because reading it, it's like, I don't know, I got this a bit dirty when I read it. So one day I might get a new copy of it, but I was very much studying in this book because there were a lot of words that I didn't understand, so I was making a point to go through and learn all of them as I was reading it, which was good for vocabulary, although I've forgotten a lot of the words. But this is such a good book. I definitely want to reread this. Probably not this year because I have a lot of things that I want to be reading in the next 10 months in this year, but this is such a good book. I'm not super into romance. I just find it kind of cheesy to read. But with like classic literature like this, I think this was a really beautiful story. It was very inspiring because Jane, really sticks to her morals and she doesn't waver from them. And I think that that's so cool to see such like a strong female character in a book. I saw some criticisms of the story the other day, which did make sense, but that's not really how I took the book. I think it's a really good book. It was very slow to get through like the first third of the book because a lot of it's just setting up for what happens later in the book. But yeah, I definitely want to give this a reread. I love this and I love this cover. I think that's so pretty and I'm really annoyed that I fucked it up. But hopefully I can figure out a way to make that better. But yeah. I miss going to bookstores and buying books because like those other two that I showed you I didn't buy, and I haven't been to a bookstore to buy things because like the books that I tend to want to read I can't find. But I love the feeling of going into Dimmicks and like looking at books. I haven't done that in so long. But yeah, I got this in a Dimmicks, which, yeah. I don't know why I'm rambling about buying books. I just haven't bought a lot of things lately because I don't have money to, and also I'm trying not to spend too much money on things I don't need. So, yeah. Next, we'll do Just Kids by Patti Smith. This, you can tell I liked. This is the kind of book that I love to read. Yeah, this is about Patti Smith and her upbringing and her life in New York. I feel like this is a very famous book. I would definitely recommend it. But it's mainly about her relationship with Robert, who is this guy. I think they had such a beautiful relationship, and I think this was it was a very inspiring book, but it was also just very like, it was really nice to read. But I don't really know how to describe this book very well. Again, I'm not good at describing things, but this is one of my favorites. Again, if you could not tell, I love this book. Like, I did a good amount of highlighting and stuff in it, which I don't do in all of my books, especially like if it's a hardcover book, I'm not going to do that. But in this, I did that. Again, such a beautiful book. I love this book. I'm not good at describing things, so I'm not doing it justice, but I love Patti Smith. These two are probably like two of my top favorites. Like, I have to say these are probably my absolute favorites in my collection. But then the last thing to show you out of my favorites is this book called Conditions of Love, The Philosophy of Intimacy by John Armstrong. This was a really interesting read. I read this when I wasn't in a relationship, and I found it very helpful and very insightful. It's a very insightful book, obviously. It's a philosophy book. But yeah, it's a really good read. And then I read it again when I got into a relationship, and I think that was also very helpful for me. I don't know if you're interested in reading about love. I know I said I don't like reading love stuff, but then like a lot of these, like these three books are very much filled with love. So, but yeah, this is a really interesting read. I really like this book. So definitely in my top 5. Actually, I didn't even count them. Yeah, 5 books, my top 5. But love this. Very interesting. I don't know, I definitely recommend reading this both when you're single and when you get into a relationship. I think that was very helpful for me, like I said. But especially if you're in a serious relationship, I think this is a good read. So, actually, I feel like it's more of a good read if you're single. I think it's very insightful because when you're single, you can look at things a little bit more plain as day. You don't have that kind of love haze going on. But yeah, again, very insightful. Really liked this book. But that is all my favorite books. I feel like this isn't a good video. I've been filming for not very long. But I'm gonna move on to my reading list. So out of books that I already have, there's only 2 that I really need to read besides my hardcover books, but I'm not really fussed about reading those anytime soon. So what I'm currently getting through is Phantom of the Opera. The first time I tried to read this, because I got this 2 years ago, I was struggling with it because it was confusing my brain, and honestly I didn't really want to be reading a fiction book. I think I did want to buy it because I had just watched Phantom of the Opera with one of my friends. But honestly, I got a couple chapters in and it was confusing me, so I just didn't, and I haven't been motivated to read it since, so I'm trying to do that now. I'm listening to an audiobook as I read along with it, but I think once I'm done with it, I'm probably going to get rid of him. I can't see myself reading this again so far. I'll probably put it on like Facebook Marketplace or something. But yeah, I don't love it. Probably gonna get rid of it. It's not that it's bad, but it's like Raoul pisses me the fuck off. I hate this. I hate him. He annoys me, and I hate reading about men. Like, if you couldn't tell by a lot of these, I like reading books that center around women, because that perspective makes sense to me. So yeah, but also I'm just not super into fiction. So yeah, once I'm done that, that's probably gonna go away. And then the next actual book that I have that I need to read is The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. Actually, I think I might have maybe had this for like almost 3 years, because this I got on my 18th birthday. I bought it for myself because the guy at the shop recommended it, and I just haven't gotten around to it because this is a book that I really want to pay attention to and study. And I just haven't been in the mood to do that lately. So this one I definitely need to read. Once I'm done this though, I'm gonna allow myself to get another book, and then maybe after a couple books I'll finally read this, but I don't know when I will. It's not that I don't want to read it, it's just I lack the motivation at the moment to do that. Or I guess I lack more of the focus to do it at the moment. So I'm saving that. Now, onto my reading list of books that I don't possess, because I find it silly to buy a bunch of books when you're not going to read them, even though I just showed you 2 books that I haven't read, but they are the only 2 in my collection that I haven't read. So moving on now. The next thing I want to get is a little less serious than the rest of these. I really want to get the Twilight Saga of books. I want this edition. They're really pretty. I found them on Facebook Marketplace, and I really want to get them because they're a bit cheaper on there. Obviously I'm not going to read these all in a row, but I'll probably read like the first and maybe second in a row. I don't know, I love the movies. I rewatch them all the time. It started ironically, and now I love them. I also just got all of the Twilight soundtracks for Christmas. So I kind of just want to do that. So that's the next on my list. After that, we move into more interesting books. So there's this book called Surplus Enjoyment, a guide for the non-perplexed. That's by, I don't know how to say his name. Slavoj Zizek. I hate saying things that are in a different language because I sound stupid and I'm way too aware of it. But I heard about that book from a creator on YouTube and on TikTok. Her name's Alex. I don't really remember what her username is, but I'll put it up. She's very popular. But I heard about that from her, and I feel like that would be a very helpful book for me to read. It's kind of a philosophy book. I don't really know. But I really want to read that. That's been on my reading list for a while. So that's probably one of the next books that I want to get besides the Twilight books. And then after that, another book that I heard about from Alex is A Happy Death by Albert Camus. Another philosophy book, kind of, I think. Honestly, I heard about it once and it's just been on my list, but I really do want to read it. I looked it up and it says it centers around the will of happiness, and again, I feel like that kind of goes along with Surplus Enjoyment. I think I might have heard about them in the same video. I'm not really sure, but I do really want to read that as well. I'm thinking maybe I read like one fiction book and then I go to one non-fiction and then kind of like switch between, so like put a serious book in between all of my Twilight books once I get them. But yeah, and then the last thing on my list is called Girl on Girl. Honestly, I might get that before either of the other 2 philosophy books that I just mentioned. It's not a philosophy book. It's best described by its subheading, which is How Pop Culture Turned a Generation of Women Against Themselves. I heard about this on TikTok, not from Alex, from someone else. It looks really interesting. It's by Sophie Gilbert. I have it in my Amazon cart. I don't like Amazon, but I'll try to see if I can get it cheaper somewhere else anyway. But yeah, I've been really interested in reading that for the last 6 months, but I just haven't gotten around to it. So yeah, that's the last thing. There's probably a bunch of other things that I've heard of that I'd like to read, but honestly, the Twilight Saga is how many books? Like 4, and then there's 2 additional, 6 books. So I mean, that's technically a pretty long list. It just doesn't look very long on paper. But yeah, those are my favorite books and my reading list. I'm really excited to see what books I get through this year. I've already listened to one audiobook as well. I listened to Half His Age by Jeanette McCurdy. That was a pretty interesting read. I don't really know if I can call that reading, but I found that to be an interesting book. I don't love books that are like centered around that kind of theme. It's just disturbing. But yeah, that was a good book. And I'm also listening to the audiobook for Lost Lambs. I don't know who that's by. I apologize. Again, I'll put it up here. But yeah, I'm getting through those, but I'm mainly trying to focus on using my audiobook hours on Spotify for Phantom of the Opera. I'm about halfway through it now, so, and that's pretty good because I've been reading it for a week. Audiobooks definitely help me speed up the reading process, otherwise I wouldn't be reading this if it weren't for the audiobook, honestly. But yeah, that's everything that I have to say. I'm hoping I will have a bigger pile whenever I make maybe another one of these videos in the future. But yeah, thank you for watching and goodbye now.